Welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Johnny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at jonnydelsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website jfa49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag JD49. Welcome into a Monday. We are excited on today's episode, of course, with Mr. Johnny Dell. We're going to get into some offense.
Not to be offended, but we're
Yes.
going to get into some offense.
It might be offensive if you are not a Niners fan. Johnny, did you have a good weekend?
Yes, had a good weekend.
Solid.
It was good. Thank you everybody who ordered merch. I got a new order put in. I think it was last night. Somebody ordered a hoodie. So, and it was the Sprint Ride option hoodie. It wasn't the Super Bowl 23 hoodie, but super cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. I've got to wear the Sprint Ride option shirt. I have one. I just keep forgetting to bring it to the office, but
I will say, if you have ordered merch like that, please take a selfie and email the show.
I'd love to throw it up here.
Yeah, email us a picture with you, and we'll shout you out for sure, because we definitely want to see it. I'm excited for some of my gear to come in as well. Real quick, Johnny, before we get into some things that are offensive, just want to gather your thoughts on the sale of the Seattle Seahawks.
I think it was interesting that it was a guy who was a part owner of the 49ers. Clearly the guy clearly he wanted to own a football team. So, the Seahawks sold for over $9 billion. It's crazy.
You have to say it like this: $9 billion.
$9 billion.
That money doesn't even exist.
Yeah. I mean, crazy amounts of money. NFL franchises print money. They just do. So, good for them. Good for us, I guess. We'll probably be looking to sell or get a different part owner.
That's what I'm wondering who that is.
So,
get Jerry Rice in there or something.
I don't know if Jerry Rice has the coin to do that.
Hey, but I mean,
if the Seahawks are being valued at $9 billion, the 49ers are going to be valued at probably 11 or 12, just from being in a bigger market, and the history of the franchise. So, it's interesting when these sales happen. I know when the 49ers were selling theirs, it was really about establishing a higher valuation. They wanted to push their value higher. It gives you better interest rates on stuff, and just has to do with loans and operating costs and how you can deduct things. It's all tax loopholes. That's all it is.
Yeah. So here's what I want to. Shifty says, "What up, Shifty? Not to jump the gun, but the interior of the O-line scares me." We're gonna get into some of that, and here's a baseline that I want us to think about, Johnny, and I want you to explain. You can mansplain it, I suppose. We just want to come to a baseline agreement where we understand certain things. Like, most of us here 22 personnel, for example, and we know what that means, but there's other things that go along with it. But I want to just make sure we have our parameters set for those that don't know, and those that do know, it's kind of a refresher, but it's just a good baseline because we can't dive in to everything without establishing like the mean, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah. So a lot of times you'll hear it referred to as base personnel, and these are kind of older terms that have morphed through the NFL. But base personnel was generally something people used to say about that was your like standard defense, and that was you're going to have 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, 4 defensive backs, and on the offense you're going to have 5 offensive linemen, your quarterback. You're going to have 2 receivers. You'll have 2 backs and 1 tight end. You'll have a running back and a fullback, or halfback and fullback, and your quarterback, and then your split end, your flanker, and your tight end. These are all individual positions. And so base was, this is our vanilla first 5 days of training camp. We're working on these things. And over the years, as you saw fullbacks being used less and you saw a third wide receiver used more, we kept the term base. But really, when people were talking about the defense that you're in as far as personnel, most of the time is a nickel personnel, or being meant to match up against 3 wide receivers. Because you put 3 wide receivers out there and you only have 4 defensive backs with 2 safeties, 2 corners, and 3 linebackers, you're going to have a linebacker on a receiver, and that's not a good matchup. And as like the Greatest Show on Turf came in with all their great receivers, and they were doing more of these spread, the Giants started doing a lot of these spread formations, and spreading guys out and more wide receivers on the field, it really morphed. And you generally see in the NFL now, about 70% of the time, there's a third wide receiver on the field. And so we still use the term base, but it's not really base anymore. So if a team is actually running what we would call 21 personnel, and these are number codings to tell you how many receivers are actually on the field, even though the numbers don't have to do with receivers, because you have 5 eligibles. And so if the numbers refer to what outside of those 5 eligibles are, then that leaves you with receivers, right? So if you say it's 10 personnel, which is 1 back and 0 tight ends, that's 4 wide receivers. If you say it's 12 personnel, which is 1 back, and then you have 2, if I can get my numbers, 2 tight ends, then that leaves you with 2 wide receivers, right? If you say it's 21 personnel, which is then 2 backs and you have 1 tight end, then you have 2 wide receivers as well. So that tells you how many receivers are on the field by naming the positions that aren't receivers that are eligibles. So when we refer to 21 personnel, the first number is going to be your back, and the second number is going to be your tight end, and then the leftover before 5 is going to be your how many wide receivers. So 22 personnel is 4 eligibles. That's 1 wide receiver on the field. So these are ways that you can number code what an offense is going to be in. So for defenses, like when they've set up their play call sheets, they're going to have play calls for base personnel, which is your 4 down linemen, your 3 linebackers, your 4 defensive backs. They're going to have a set of plays and defensive calls with those guys on the field. And then they have their nickel personnel and those calls on the field. And then they have their dime or quarters, whatever they're wanting to do as far as 6 defensive backs. You have those calls on the field. Most defenses, vast majority of their calls are going to be nickel. Like the 49ers, for example, we ran very little dime or 6 defensive backs over the last 7 years. Even if a team goes 4 wide receivers, we kept Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw on the field. So we're in nickel. Like we just are in nickel.
Well, Fred Warner can cover.
They can cover, but what it also does is it allows you more variation. So they're going to say there comes a point where the volume that you're able to do as a defense overweighs the personnel matchup of certain things. That there's just a point where you're not getting a lot better benefit on this. The only time you get better benefit is if you want to just man up, and then they're just going to say, well, we're going to ask our safety to do that, because is our free safety going to be worse at man coverage than our fifth corner, or our backup slot corner? So that's how they kind of look at it. And if you're a team that you're running your 21 or 12, 13, one back, three tight ends, 22, two backs, two tight ends, those sorts of personnels, if you're running those at 45, 50% of the time, you are now, whereas the old days, you were actually a little bit low on the rate. Now you are higher on the rate, and you are going against a defensive a portion of the defensive playbook that the defense does not practice as much. And so a defense will have less volume that you're going to have to face. That means that's less volume that you have to prepare for. So that's fewer line slants. That's fewer blitz packages. That's fewer coverage adjustments. There's fewer checks in the defense as far as their coverage. So when you're able to do a lot of your offense out of those personnels, it in today's NFL, it makes your life easier actually as a play designer, because there's fewer things you have to prepare for and keep. And so you can really prepare on what they do. And it sets you up in a lot of positive situations where you can then dictate to them, because there's less variables. You can dictate who's going to be on the strong side and the weak side, because they just have fewer checks in there, or they're going to be trying to install them during the week. And you can figure those out real quick, because you'll know, okay, they've done these 6 adjustments. We come out in this, there's a 7th adjustment we haven't seen yet. Now we know this is game plan specific for us. So this is how they're trying to answer that. Now you get on the radio with your assistants and the guys in the booth, and you get on the tablet and you say, okay, we're going to put something together here. We're going to look at what can we do? What do we have in our game plan that now takes advantage of this? And so that's when you get to those things in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th drives of the game.
What else do you think makes Kyle Shanahan, everything that you explained, every team in the NFL has access to this information that you are just going over? This isn't something that, yes, it's impressive as a regular fan for you to understand all this. I'll admit that, but like, it's not impressive for anyone in the NFL, right? And so I'm curious, like, what do you think makes Kyle Shanahan stand out when everyone has the same, access to really great football knowledge and the ins and outs of the X's and O's, the Y's and the hows?
Well, one, there's very few fullbacks anymore. And so a true fullback is something, and you have to remember, like, fullbacks, if you do you want your fullback playing special teams if he's going to be a key cog in what you do? No. So
not so much.
It starts to become a numbers game, is really what things come down to. Is, okay, receivers, we got guys that drop pretty regularly. So am I comfortable with 4 competent receivers, and then I got 2 special teamers? I really need 5. And then I need a couple special teamers. So a lot of teams are saying, I would rather have 7 wide receivers to be able to do everything that I want to do. And I want to be able to pass the ball. And I want to take advantage of some of these rules of the defense. And they're going to look at that and say, that's my advantage. That's what I really like. I really want to be able to spread defenses out, get real clear, defined looks for my quarterback. I need to be able to help him out. I need to be able to put 3 wide receivers over here all the time, or I need to be able to put guys out past the numbers a lot of times to be able to see exactly where the safeties are pre-snap. So part of this comes into, do you have a quarterback who can handle not being able to get a spread look a lot of times? And if you can, which is again, people will say, well, imagine this quarterback in Shanahan's system. I'm like, yes and no. He's got skill sets that he wants, because it gives him a different advantage. These things are not always like one is better than the other. It's different. And it's, how do you want to go about it? What do you believe in foundationally? And I think that really speaks to what makes Kyle Shanahan so difficult to stop is he starts with a really strong foundation. And he says, I'm committed to that foundation. For example, we run wide zone as the number one running play we go after all the time. They're okay with getting 2 yards on that play because they have things that work off of that. And they're committed to it. And they're going to say, we're going to run twice as many wide zones. This is from their words, not mine. We're going to run twice as many wide zone as anything else in the run game because everything is built off of that. So what that means is you have to be okay with getting 1 yard on that play. You have to be okay with getting 2 yards on that play. And you have to be okay with that over and over and over again. So what that does mean is that you've got to be able to convert on third downs. So what they're going to do, and
third and long.
This is why the 49ers drop back passing game on first and second down doesn't look as polished as everybody else, because what they really focus on and why they're so good at it is passing game on third down. Their third down is one of the best passing games in the league and has been for a long time because they spend a lot of time on their passing game. It's all about third down. Why? Because it starts with a commitment to what are you going to do? And they say, we're going to run wide zone. And that means we're going to have a lot of second and longs, a lot of third and longs, because there's going to be a lot of these that don't work. But if we commit to it, then that means we're able to get a lot of third downs. Then we are going to be able to do so many other things off of that sets everything else up that it gets really explosive. And so it becomes good. And when Notorious is saying Juice plays special teams in like some returner roles and some blocking roles, but he's not a gunner on punt team is what I mean. He's not a gunner on the kickoff team. So like that's where it changes. The one thing about Juice is that because he moves pre-snap more like a running back, because tight ends can be kind of clumsy when they're shifting and motioning around. He's able to do it with a better speed and quickness than everybody else. So what Juice does, and I know people have been asking about this and why he makes it so much more valuable. Circling back around to there's not a lot of true fullbacks. Is Juszczyk, one, he's a good receiver. Two, he's a really good blocker in space. And so you can ask him. So like most tight ends, they know either I'm lined up on the line out here and I can block, or I'm in line and I block. I'm out there and I can block, and I'm asked to block a safety or really just kind of get in the way a lot of times. I'm in the line. I'm blocking a defensive end. I'm blocking an outside linebacker. Those are different guys than trying to block the mic when you're coming through the hole. That's different than I need to be able to block a safety. I need to be able to block a corner. I need to, and in space and coming from a different launching starting point. I need to be able to move from one side to the other. Understand there's a heavy mental load. The position that Juszczyk really plays is what's called the F, or what Bill Walsh used to call the F. It's not necessarily fullback. It's more an F. And there's been a couple of different ideas of where that letter came from. I've heard some coaches say they named it the F because it F's with the defense. Bill Walsh infamously had Jerry Rice as the F because he was a bad mother effer. And that was told to me straight from a guy who worked for John Gruden, who watched the install tapes of Bill Walsh and said he said that in the meeting. I mean, straight from his mouth to my ears, that's why you call it the F. But the F, you have like your different positions, but the F becomes your adjuster, is what Kyle Shanahan calls it. And that means it adjusts the strength. It adjusts the surface, and surface meaning how many blockers are on each side of the ball. And so you have like a 3-man surface, you have 4-man surface, you have 5-man surface, meaning the defense has to account that they're going to have this many blockers coming to the party. And so we've got to make sure we have +1 to that side of the ball every time. And so Juszczyk can move from one side to the other, come back, come into the backfield, and he can block in space really well, which is not a skill everybody has. Like we just think, well, you can put Kittle in that role. You can put Luke Farrell in that role. No, Luke Farrell, was not great as an inline blocker, but Luke Farrell is really does not have that skill set of being able to line up, offset to the right side, work back across, understand who the first linebackers is going to peek through that hole. That's a Mike. That's a guy like, say, Roquan Smith, and then get up and block him in space. He's not good at that. One, they're tall guys. They're taller. Tight ends, you want big receiving targets, right? So they're taller. They have a hard time getting lower and moving around, shadowing side to side. It's a physical skill set that is just rare. You need shorter guys who are quick but can block with some force, but be able to understand everything. It's a very uncommon skill set these days, and why the 49ers have continued to pay Kyle Juszczyk well and keep him here. So, so all that to say, like, I hope am I making sense there, Adam? I know I kind of rabbit trailed through that whole thing.
Yeah. You always go off on your tangents. We're used to it, but you did cover the ground we needed. One thing I wanted to mention is Cayman's Islands. I'm thinking let's grade at the end here. Thanks for the super chat. He asked, seems like we struggle on 4th down. Here's what I propose. Why don't we give the Johnny Dell grade of Kyle Shanahan's play calling on 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th down at the end of the show? I think that'd be kind of cool. We can break it down. So thanks for that super chat, though, Caymans.
Yeah, I will say, I think part of the thing with this, because I can remember a lot of 4th downs that we have converted. Generally, league wide, 4th down conversion rate's about 50%, and I think we're about league average.
Sometimes they just look boneheaded because it's like, guys, you're trying to be too cute. I've said that on the show.
Well, like, when you're running an option play against the Seahawks in the divisional rounds on 4th down, and it just is botched so badly.
With
like, that was one of those of like, golly, guys, that was a bad call. Like, that was your best call in this situation.
And I think Cayman's is like visually, he was like thinking about that as he's typing this one out, I think, because that's what came to my mind as well. All right.
I think the reason why it feels like we struggle is because one, and it's a lot of things. I've talked about this before, is you're sometimes so close emotionally to the outcome that we always feel like ours is worst. Well, I mean, like, people will say it feels like,
of course we are.
Well, yeah, and 4th down's a good one. It feels like other teams are able to do it. Well, when you're watching another team play and they go for it on 4th down and they don't get it, you don't feel that pain. You don't remember. Like,
you
pain
just say, good defense. Yeah.
Well, pain is very much tied to memory. So when you feel pain, you remember what caused that, because it's a defense mechanism. The brain says, don't go through this again. So we remember a lot of painful moments in our life because of stupid things like I have a scar on my middle finger. I won't show everybody. It was from a time I was trying to make some bookshelves in my house, and I was using a lot of shelf boards, and I was cutting them on the back of my truck. And as I was going, and I was using a guide on one side with my skill saw, the board moved, and I just instinctively grabbed the board to keep it from moving, and my finger came around and hit the bottom where the blade was coming down out of the board, and I took about a 1/4 inch chunk out of my finger, and ended up super gluing it, going to the ER, getting some stitches. But like, I remember that moment very well, and and ever since that moment, I'm like, I'll take the 5 minutes to set up my sawhorses, clamp things down. Like, I'm going to be a lot more careful about that. Why? Because pain's a really good memory device. So we remember the 4th downs that don't work. We don't remember the 4th downs that the Bills have called that didn't work. We don't remember the Chargers' 4th downs that they called and didn't work. We remember our 4th downs.
A couple years ago, remember the 49ers defense? We were like 8 for 8 on stopping 4th downs.
Yeah.
Like, it was like crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And no one talks about that offense because we're tied to the defense, since it was the Niners defense doing it. So emotions, yeah, I feel you. All right.
Anyways,
let's dive into this. Where do you want to start? I mean, gosh, we've talked about so much. Where do you start now?
So yeah, I mean, this is why I felt like I needed to do a primer before the whole thing. And because I've also looked at, sometimes I blaze through some things and people go, I need you to slow that down just a little bit for me.
Yeah.
So,
And so
we're going to talk about the run game a little bit and how this impacts. So this is why you have a Kyle Juszczyk here, because you can line him up anywhere on the field and he can block, he can motion, he can do what you need to do. And it dictates things for a defense. So first thing you have here is we're going to talk about run game. There's wide zone or outside zone. Those two terms are interchangeable. There's inside zone or tight zone. Again, those two terms are interchangeable, just different ways, things people will call it. And then there's gap runs. So those are really your three types of runs. And so when I hear people say, like, well, teams are just going to load up against the run on us, I don't like, for me, I just kind of go yes and no. Because even if somebody loads up against a run, this field is 53 and a third field yards wide. So, okay, if somebody says I'm going to load up against the run, and they say, well, where are you going to load up against the run? Out here? Are you going to load up against the run up here? Up here? Up here? Like, where are we loading up against the run? Because are you going to load up against wide zone? Or are you going to load up against inside zone? Or are you going to load up against gap run? And you say, well, we're just trying to bring as many guys in here as possible, and we're going to load up on that. And I say, okay, well, what about when it's condensed and you're trying to bring all these guys in here? You got a lot of gaps you got to fill. Well, now you have outside runs and gap runs. You have outside zone runs that are toss plays that are zone runs. You have wide receiver screens out here. So like there's so many different things in here. I'm not always sold that it's just somebody loads up against a run, they stack the box, and that makes it. Because if you look historically at Shanahan, his most explosive runs, you just look at the top 10 most explosive runs, almost all of them will come against like loading the box and having 8 men in the box, usually against cover 3 or man. Like, so I don't always buy that just loading the box is. Now it does give you an advantage as far as, from a defense, but this is where Shanahan is so hard to stop, because all of these runs look the same. They release the same, but they attack different areas. And that is why the basis, if we say foundationally, why is his offense so hard to stop? Because everything looks the same. Everything presents the same. You can run everything out of the personnel groups. So when the team is preparing for the 49ers offense that week, their base defense has to prepare for everything they're going to see.
Yeah.
Their nickel defense has to prepare for everything they're going to see. And when you've got to do that, that makes it really tough as far as everybody. Nickel corners are having to prepare against every run look that they normally don't see. You're going to have third linebackers are going to have to prepare for every passing concept the 49ers run, where normally that's the nickel guy. So you can bring Juszczyk out here. You line him up in what is traditionally a wide receiver spot. This is a wide receiver and Juszczyk. They're in the same spot, right? There's one as a tight end out here, so that makes him look like he's closer, but they're the same distance off the ball. So that creates positive things, because now the defense has to wait to this side, because you're in this is also the strong side. So you got 3 over here, 3 eligibles, 1, and then you got a running back that's kept head up. Now you're going to bring Deebo Samuel in motion. So Deebo Samuel is going to come in, and this is where you hit wide zone. Okay, so they're waiting to this side. They have a 5-man surface to try and have really strong edges against this. So you're going to run this wide zone. So I covered this a lot in the Carver Willis, everything. So I won't go over it too much, but you get this wide zone. You're coming out this way. The idea is all these guys are running on the same angle as the running back, his target point is the outside leg of this tight end. That's his target point. And he runs to that gap until something takes him out of it. And then he works one gap back to find where it is. But he presses that hole until something takes him out of it. Now, a lot of it, though, is going to be by pre-snap looks. These guys have to understand when this guy is here, that's a really hard block for Brunskill. So this is Brunskill. This is from quite a ways back. I've been going through years of Shanahan film. That's why this whole series has taken a little while to get going. So that's a really hard block for Brunskill. So and these guys know that. This is McGlinchey and Brunskill. So they're going to sell this wide zone, know that if they do that, this guy's going to take himself that way. So most likely McGlinchey's going to end up picking him up. They'll ride this out, and then Brunskill will move to the second level. That's how they're going to look at this thing, because that's a tough block. So Mason has to know this is most likely not going to be there. I got to be ready to cut that up pre-snap. By the pre-snap look at the defense. So that comes into their film study, their running back coaches prepping them on the week, but he's still got to track this, right? Because you want these guys attacking that angle. You want the defense to have to do that. One of like Jeff Wilson's biggest problems is he would see that, but he would start bending it around up early all the time. All the time. This is Isaac Garendo has this problem too. And so these guys will cut off their track if they see running back doing that, and they're sitting there when you cut up. But he does a good job pressing that hole. He could probably press it a little bit longer, but you can see everything's flowing. You're getting the defense to flow. They've got to respect the backside because you got Deebo Samuel out here. And so we'll fake this and then toss it out here. So these guys got to stay backside. The quarterback's going to roll out, so they have to respect that. Like, there's all these things. They're stressing you in so many different ways from side to side that you've got to stay home. And so when that crease opens up, bang, you split the defense, and now you get an explosive run. So you start with the wide zone and you run that over and over and over again. Jordan Mason's upset because he's like, oh, man, I was one-on-one with a safety. Like, that's what I'm supposed to win on that. But you can see here, like, that's a really hard block from a wide zone reach block to get that guy. So pre-snap, it's not happening. Like McGlinchey, we're going to go through his armpit. We're going to try and get to the second level and then bang him out. So this is going to be most likely a cutback. But if I can't, if this guy just keeps fighting, well, then I let himself take him out, and then Brunskill's going to go get. So like wide zone, you have these these blocks that it could go either way. And so like this one, you're probably going to have the same thing again by pre-snap. So we're going to hit this. We're going to get this guy to draw. We're going to blast him down. Again, Mason understands that. So he knows he's most likely cutting back inside these two defensive tackles, because by alignment, I'm going to be cutting this back. So I just got to press it, wait till they present, and then I'll go, and it'll be there. So here it is. Bang. There it is. Looks great. All right, so then you've come with your wide zone. You've attacked him with that. So what you want to do is you're going to say, okay, we're going to make these guys look like wide zone. Okay, and here's juice check. So they're in base personnel. So again, you got 5 guys on the line, only 2 linebackers on the back, stack backers, what we call off the line. So they're coming out here. We're able to put both wide receivers over here. We do this every time. We'll do this a lot because this gives you a coverage check. So you understand, okay, if this comes down and on this play, if this guy comes down and this guy goes back, then what you're going to see is a check from Brock Purdy. He's going to say, whoa, can. He's going to tap his head, and we're going to go to a pass play that can beat what's called cover 3 buzz, because buzz, we don't have a way to account for this safety on this play. So there's a can built in. So they're against any look but that, they like this run. But against that look, they don't like the run. But here's a straight can to a pass that we love versus that defense. So that's another layer as to why it's so hard. But now you're going to have, instead of these guys, these guys are all going to look the same. We're going to have use check in the back. So, right, you have the same strength as we just saw with this wide zone. Now what you're going to do is you're going to have him come out, kick out the backside, and you're going to run a split, what's called a split flow inside zone. So wide zone starts from the outside leg of the tight end, and it works one gap in this way. So split flow inside zone is going to start one gap, an aiming point inside the center, and it's going to work one gap to the outside. So outside zone is really just means reading outside in, and inside zone reading inside out. So it's where's your starting point and where are you trying to split the defense? An outside zone is trying to split the defense inside. I know that sounds backwards. And an inside zone is trying to split the defense outside. So it's about forcing flow a certain way, but all of these look the same. Same personnel, same takeoff angles from the offensive line, but now we're coming, instead of starting here and working in, we're starting here and working out. And so we do this. We also bring Deebo Samuel in motion. So now they've got to prepare for this. This safety's got to be alert. So it's really about this safety. So because that safety has to be alert, we know we're going to get this safety to come inside. So all this stuff is starting to tie together. Everything in Shanahan's offense has a reason. It has a purpose. There is a why. There's a why to everything they do. A lot of times, and this was the problem with the Eagles offense last year. People will understand these things do something to a defense, but there's no cohesion. Like we're just sometimes doing motions just for the sake of motion, because motion makes it harder on a defense. No, you need to have specific motions. This takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a staff that all understands how these guys are going to work together and work seamlessly to know these things. So, okay, your receivers coach has got to be on this and what this looks. So we're going to bring Deebo Samuel in motion to force this backside safety. Why? Because we're going to try and run this through here. So we need to move this safety. So how do we move that safety? That's where you start with the questions. Why would, not just why you do that, but you start with, how do I get these safeties to move in this look? So how do I do that? I'm going to present this, verify that it's the defense I want. Then I'm going to bring this guy in motion. I'm going to bring the shift to the safeties I want. I'm going to get these linebackers moved a little bit. I'm going to sell this that way so I get these guys moving the way I want them to move, and I'm able then to come through this lane. All of this ties together, and there's a purpose for it. There's a meaning for it. You get the personnel you want that dictates the coverage you want, that dictates the movement you want. So you get all this going. You see this safety's having to hold. You see this guy has to go. This guy is like, what's happening? Because this looks like wide zone, right? His side looks like wide zone, but you got Juszczyk that's able to come out. Your alignment, have Deebo Samuel out here, push the edge guy out. So that gives you a better blocking angle for Juszczyk. You got these guys flowing down, safeties in retreat, because he knows I got to retreat and pick up anything that's coming across, because this safety is going to widen. So I get the look I want, and now you get just enough that these guys were just slow enough. I'm just slow enough. Now we get a big run in here. You get Christian McCaffrey running with a full head of steam, and you get an 8-yard run in the red zone. And so you're able to dictate things, everything. These are two different runs, but for a defense, it all starts with the wide zone. You have to be committed to this before you can run this. You have to be committed to wide zone before you can run the inside zone. So now it comes, and you can see the defensive line as they go. As this fires out, watch this guy. Watch him fly down, because he thinks this is wide zone. So he's taking himself down this way, right? He's not just getting bulldozed down. He's taking himself. These guys have to respect this gap that's opening up. And now you get this through here. So it starts with your wide zone. It starts with being committed to being a 21 personnel team so that you can move Juszczyk around. It starts with being committed to what you want to do foundationally. And then you have your gap runs in here. And this is an outside toss, but this is a gap run. So this is what I mean. Like, gap runs come in different forms. So a team's going to say, okay, we're going to load up against the run, right? This is what I'm talking about. So people say, well, they're just going to stack the box and load up against the run. Well, now what you're going to do is you're going to crack down, and you're going to pull Trent Williams, and you're going to lead out here, and you're going to toss the thing out. So this is an outside gap run. So you have, again, same formational look that we have with these condensed receivers. You got Juszczyk in here. So you're 3 on the strong, because you want these guys inside. You want them to come in and say, well, they're going to run wide zone through here, so we're going to slam this up in here. Well, now you've got great blocking angles for these guys on a crack block, and you can come out here and you seal this thing off, and you're able to get a great block here. Because then, George Kittle, he's normally going to block this guy out to the sideline. He says, no, I seal this guy off a little bit. We get Juszczyk, who can block in space. Trent Williams out here, who can block in space. And now on second down, you get another explosive run. So teams will say, well, we're gonna sit up in here, we're gonna load up against the run, and against 21 personnel, well, now they can run a toss play and get you outside. And then you're gonna have here now these motions start all playing together. You're gonna come out in 13 or 11 personnel. So you bring a wide receiver out here. And this is what I mean, that suddenly you got to prepare for everything. You got Christian McCaffrey. You're going to come out, it's a tight end. You're going to bring a tight end in motion. You got Elijah Mitchell in the backfield. So they're going to change the strength on this from going 4-by-1 to more balanced. So you see the shift. They've got to account for that. You're going to make these guys look like wide zone this way. So offensive linemen are going to fly, or defensive linemen. When that happens, now defensive linebackers got to account for the backside as they bring this look from Elijah Mitchell. And now you get Deebo Samuel around that way. So you get the guys you don't worry about being in the play, the defensive linemen flowing towards the play. You get the guys who you are worried about getting in on the play, the linebackers and safeties, you get them flowing away, and you come at it. And so a defense, look at these guys just flying here. Those are the linebackers, right? They're flying in there. And now you come with Deebo Samuel out here. And this is when the 49ers offense starts to, when they start looking unstoppable, because you hit them with everything. You got a counter to your counter to your counter, but it all starts with wide zone. But then you struggle against wide zone. Then you over adjust to stop that. And we've game planned against this. Now they hit us with inside zone, split flow inside zone. Okay, now we got to adjust for that. Now they're hitting us with, could be wide zone, could be inside zone. Now it's a reverse to Deebo Samuel. And then you get your gap runs in here where you have, this is a counter. So this is a gap run. And what that changes is this changes. So this is an inside gap run. So that changes your blocking rules here for these guys. So what you're going to have is you're going to pull the backside guard and you're going to kick out the end man. Juszczyk's going to come and lead up the hole. So what you did here is you say that we're 3-by-1 with a running back lined up. So again, the defense is loaded up to the strong side. They got to keep numbers. So you're absolutely changing the surface. So you go from this being a 2-man surface and then a 5-man surface on one side to now afterwards, you're going to have a 4-man surface and a 3-man surface. Does that make sense? So for a defense, you go from needing 6 and 3 to needing 5 and 4. So that is a big post snap change for the defense of how you stay +1, and they just can't do it. So now, whereas these two guys, normally what you would expect is Ben Barch to get on the other side of this one technique and seal him off, they're not going to work that. They're going to sell this as a wide zone because they want that guy to go. He's going to be Brendel's man, and Ben Barch is going to go get to the second level. That's where this is different as a gap run than a zone run. Even though the running back is still going to read this one gap at a time. He's not set on this is my gap. This is why it becomes a gap run, it changes the rules for the offensive line, but they want their attack angles the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know that's a mouthful there. So you see this, you see they understand this. Ben Barch already knows I'm peeling off.
It's helpful to see it right after you talk it. It's helpful then to see it actually play out.
Right. So Jake Brendel knows I gotta hold this guy because he's trying to draw him. But normally Brendel would be getting to the second level and Barch would be taking that guy. But because it's a gap run, then he's going to peel off and Brendel's going to take him. But they're selling it the same way because they want this guy to think wide zone, I'm going that way. They want all these guys to think that. And so then they get bang in here. Here's where Juszczyk is so valuable. He can come up across the formation, up on a mic and block in space. And so there it is, bang. And you get through and you get an explosive run. So all of these things, the run game all looks the same. They have the same motions. They have the same formations. They have everything. And like, one reason our game against the Colts looks so good this last year is because we ran the same formations, the same motions over and over again. And we came with 5 different runs against them. And they kept, it was every single one. We were one step ahead. Philosophically, I've talked foundationally, but philosophically, where this comes from is Shanahan saying, we don't want to try and beat the defense to a spot. We want to be in that spot before the defense gets there. I know that sounds like I'm saying the same thing, but it's different. He's saying we're never going to let them know where we don't ever want to let them know where we're going.
Yeah. It's not based on speed. It's based on outsmarting them.
And it's based upon selling everything the same way. So they can't determine everything before you go. I mean, if you look at this as your defense, you're saying, okay, this ball's coming this way. Right. And then just watch these 3 guys. Sorry, these 3 guys. Just watch these 3 guys, and you'll see that looks like wide zone. If I was to just say this guy, these 2 guys, this looks like wide zone. Like that. So this defensive tackle, this defensive back linebacker who's down here, it's going to look the same to him. So he's got, and you can see him pointing. He's saying they're coming this way. So he believes this is wide zone already. First snap, and then and then he's got to step up because he says, "Oh shoot, I got to go cut this off and force it back inside." So you've given Juszczyk a good positive blocking angle. You move this guy over, so you have a positive blocking angle. Everything is meant and has a reason. They have it, like, it sounds crazy, but 80 plays on a Sunday, every single one of them has a why. And you see it here. These things all have a why. They have a purpose, and it's why their offense is so hard to stop. Because just truthfully, not every offense actually does do this, because this is incredibly hard. And so a lot of times offensive coordinators will say, yeah, but I just have this guy, I'll make it easy on myself. I'm going to let this guy do the work. Shanahan comes from an approach that says, no, I'm never going to ask my players just to do the work. I just want my players to play fast, use their skill sets to be able to break open field tackles. That's why they prioritize those traits. Like, they don't always prioritize, I need a guy who can do 800 things really well. I need a guy who, like, for offensive playmakers, I need a guy who's really good with the ball in his hands, because I'm going to put in an incredible amount of work to try and get the ball in their hands in a positive way.
So one of the main things with...
Take a quick breather here for a second.
One of the main things with this offense, and first I'll say, if you enjoy this type of content, please consider becoming a member. This really helps the channel and allows Johnny to do these types of things. And Johnny brings in this comment, Seattle did beat us in the trenches, and that was very apparent.
Well, yes, I say yes and no. So I covered a lot of this when I did the Carver Willis video after we drafted him. I went over a couple of the Seattle games, and I'll say I think it's a little bit overblown that our offensive line just got manhandled in the run game. If you go back to that week 18, there was several things wrong. Okay, one, you got Austin Pleasance in there, and Austin Pleasance was just schematically of what I'm talking about this execution was just bad. He wasn't selling gap runs and inside zone or counters as wide zone. He's tipping it to Seattle. Same with Burford. He's not playing next to Trent Williams, starts pressing a little bit. And you start seeing in that why they philosophically and foundationally approach it the way they do, because those guys are really good. And so if you are just trying to beat them physically, which that's what those 2 guys were trying to do, you're not going to do it. So they needed to be ahead of the ball, and they need to sell their wide zones more. Their footwork wasn't good. You had really bad blocking from wide receivers and tight ends. So, like, and one of them was Demarcus Robinson. was supposed to go block Nick Emanwari. We got a play that's going to go for a big gain. We got Jennings is going to block his guy. He blocks who Jennings is supposed to block. No one blocks Emanwari. You can't sell the run right. It goes for 1 yard. The thing about the divisional round, we have to remember everything in context, that game got out of hand real quick because you had the opening kickoff was returned for a touchdown by Seattle. So and Seattle's off on 13 days rest. We had just flown back from Philly off that big emotional game, lost George Kittle in that, and then fly up to Seattle. The next drive, you're moving the ball. You have a toss play where Brian Robinson had a first down. He cuts it up too early. You end up, third and short. You try and run a dive play. That play, the offensive line, yes, they got their rear end handed to them. Okay, then you have this botched option. I look at the botched option and I look at the Brian Robinson play, and I go, those aren't on the offensive line. One was an outside toss. The play was there. He could have got the first down. The toss play, that was just a bad call. So I'm not putting that on the offensive line. So in 3 runs there, I say one's on the offensive line, but you turn it over on downs. Now your defense is getting gashed. You're now down 14-0. You're then moving the ball well again, and then Jake Ton just fumbles. And Seattle gets it, and you go down 21-0. That changes the entire complexion of the game. So when you look at the run game, for example, I go, I'm not I know that's a really common thought through there, but from the film, I look at it and I say, as far as run game, it wasn't like the offensive line just was completely anemic the whole time. There were other issues than just straight they got the rear ends handed to them. So that's how I look at it. I know not everybody agrees with that, but from the film and going over that's what I saw. Cayman's Island, thank you again. He says PFF ranked our O-line 5th. What say you on that? I do think that's a little generous. I think they're helped out by this scheme. And that's one reason they tend to not invest first-round picks, second-round picks on offensive line. Because you look at the 2 guys that they really invested high in, Mike McGlinchey and Aaron Banks. They looked at both those guys and they said they were good for us, but we got equal production out of guys who were not those picks high. We got Dominic Pooney and Colt McKivitz, nowhere near drafted as high. And you could easily make the argument that those 2 guys have been just as good as Aaron Banks and Mike McGlinchey. And so they say, why would we invest a first round or second round pick on these guys when we can get the same production that we've gotten from our early round picks? Now we can get a Dejon Stribling who, so that Deebo Samuel reverse run, now you have Dejon Stribling. Yeah. And you say, okay, I now have, what's more valuable to you from an offensive game planner? The fact that you have a guy who might lose in 0.5 seconds less time, because generally, if you're going against the Myles Garrett's of the world, who they're going to beat everybody, just one's a little bit slower than wins a little bit slower than the other, or what I'm trying to say. Anyways, or I'm able to threaten a defense like that, and now those linebackers. So I if I'm an offensive play caller, I say, give me that. Give me Deebo Samuel type. Give me somebody who I can put the ball in their hands like that. And now the defense has to put an extra man over there, because now it doesn't matter how big and strong like an Aaron Donald is. I get to double team him now because this guy opens up a double team on my run game. This guy opens up when I am doubling him and I say both our linemen, you're going to keep on that I can now, okay, they're going to double over there. I get to come up here. If I'm an offensive play caller, I understand why they always say we're going to pick guys who have the ball in their hands and can do special things with them when they do that. As far as PFF ranking our offensive line 5th, I think that's generous. I think it's a little generous. I don't think it's as generous as maybe a lot of people would probably say we're the 25th. I would say I would rank our offensive line somewhere between 10th and 14th, like in that range.
Middle of the pack.
Yeah. Well, it's above average, I would say.
Yeah. That's fair.
I would say it's above average.
That's
so,
fair.
Okay. So now we get into other things. So everything has a why, and why everything has a why. And Yushik, you can use him here. So this is kind of sequentially through some with the Jaguars in 2023. So this is first play of the game. They had come out with a wide zone. So, and they did the same thing. They had Juszczyk out here. So again, you're looking at, you have Kittle, Juszczyk, McCaffrey, all on the same side. You put your wide receivers on the other side. So again, you're thinking strong this way, and they just ran wide zone at you, right? So now you're thinking, okay, toss play. We might run a toss play out here, get these guys out here. Whew, we got to be careful of that. So we're not going to just run man and have you up in here. We're going to have to be in zone, right? So we got to keep these corners wide because this toss may be coming out of here. We got to set a hard edge. This safety's thinking I got to fire down here to fill, because if they set that, these linebackers are thinking that. So now you bring Deebo Samuel in motion. So now, okay, now we got to be prepared for this, that they're going to give Deebo the ball and they're going to have McCaffrey as a lead blocker. Whew, okay, got to be ready for that. You see this coming. You see this linebacker. He's ready for it. You see the safety's cocked, ready to fire out that way. They're ready for it. My kiddos are right outside my office. My wife's at a dentist appointment. And you're going to fake this, right? So you have McCaffrey coming out. This looks like wide zone to the defensive linemen. So the defensive linemen are going to go this way. And what you're going to do, you're going to take Juszczyk through here, and you're going to run a little counter right up in here. Bang, bang, gap run. So these guys flow. Man, that's hard on a defense. Like, this Deebo motion isn't out there for no reason. Juszczyk isn't out here for no reason. They do these things for a specific reason of everything. Watch the flow here as the linebackers and defensive line are trying to figure this out. They're alert, alert, alert. This looks like wide zone, right? These three guys looks like a fire out like wide zone, like we
Look
say.
at their bodies.
They go, right? So if you're this defensive tackle, you can't see what's going on in the backfield. You're going to say, I got to get on my horse and get out here. So you're going to move yourself out of the gap, and they're going to come out and run right through here. Okay, this guy's going to take himself out of the gap. So now this guy's going to go, oh, this is coming. I got to step out here. You have a fake, like a crack block here. So this guy's going to step up because he says, I got to be ready for this ball coming out the other side. Everything, so much detail. When they say about the 49ers run game having detail, this is what we're talking about. Every detail matters. Ayuk, you fake like you're cracking, and then you come up. You don't just try and come up and get this guy. This is what I mean. Everything has a why. Everything has a detail to it. So now you get this coming in. He's got to step up because he goes, oh, crap. This is coming in. So now you have a positive blocking angle. And there you go. And you get a good run. You make your life easier for your players. This is what we talk about when saying put your players in a good position to succeed. Okay, now you put Christian McCaffrey out here. You got Juszczyk in the backfield. You're going to bring Deebo Samuel in motion. Then what are you going to do? You're going to bring him back here. Same motion, right? So we're looking at the same thing. We're going to think, okay, now they're going to hit it. They got Christian McCaffrey out here, Juszczyk out here. Now we got to be ready for this. Now they're coming with this Deebo reverse, right? But what do you do now? You're going to fake this. So this is before that Deebo reverse that I showed earlier, the same game. And it shows how all these things set it all up. So you got flow. Also, what did you do? Let's look at this. So you bring this guy in motion. You're going to have this come out. So now we're dragging here. We get a coverage check. We know man coverage. So you know this is man coverage right here. So you're going to run Christian McCaffrey, who's got a safety on him, or safety on him, through this traffic that has to flow in to respect Deebo on this. It all has a why. So this is the same play we run so much, but you're creating traffic that this guy is going to have to work under. So he's going to have to be in a trail position behind Christian McCaffrey. So it all ties in. Here's the run fake. Here you see the flow. He's got to stay under that. So you get this across, and you get Christian McCaffrey in a really positive matchup. These guys, it's all flows, look the same. So you get Christian McCaffrey running away from this guy. And this is why when it clicks and it starts working, you say, man, this whole thing looks so easy. It's when it starts to look easy. So then again, everything has a why. Everything has a why. So I'll play this, let this run, and we can see it. So you see all this pre-snap movement by the defense. Okay, they're having to adjust for everything. Shift, motion, play action fake. Man, Brandon Ayuk, big chunk gain. Everything has a why. Everything in this play has a why. So you're in 22 personnel. So you got 2 tight ends and 2 running backs. So you got McCaffrey, you got Juszczyk. So they're in base defense. We've known in base defense, first down, second down, they're staying cover 3. Okay. What are we going to do here? First, we're going to shift Ayuk over. So they've got a safety down here. I say, okay. So we're going to bring this in motion. Now you're going to flip these guys. So we're forcing these guys down because we want this guy in the middle of the field. We want this guy down in the box because we don't want him in the play. This guy's got better range. So we've got the safety we want deep. Now what we're going to do is you're looking at 3 by 2. So we're going to bring Juszczyk in motion. So what that determines is that this guy is going to be your rusher, and this guy's going to drop out in coverage. So Juszczyk shifting means that you do that. And what are we going to do? Because why do we do that? Because we want to fake a run this way. So if this guy, we can move him down. So we're able to then let our offensive line sell a little bit of a run, and we can set our quarterback up over here.
Yeah.
So that's why we bring Juszczyk in motion. We change the strength. We're going to do this. That determines this guy's going to drop their best pass rusher, and this guy's going to run. But he's got to respect run first. And then what are we going to do? We're going to run a play that every team runs, and this is why I say it's not just in the plays they run. It's that everything has a why and how they tie it together. There's so much detail. So we're going to take this is just a dagger. We're going to take George Kittle and we run him on an over route, and Juszczyk on a Dover route, deep over, or dig as a lot of people call it. So what do we know? We know they're going to be in cover 3. So this is going to be the guy in the flat. He's going to be deep third. He's in white so we can see a little better.
Wait, do you mean Ayuk on the dig?
Yeah. Did I say Debo?
You said Juszczyk.
Sorry.
And there's nothing on Juszczyk.
Yeah. Ayuk on the dig over. Okay,
hey, I'm paying attention.
Yep. So we know this is what we're going to get on that side of the field. Okay. So we're doing all this to determine that this guy will play here, will play in the hook, not the curl. Right? So because our run is coming up this way. So all this shift and then this motion comes in to determine we get this safety, we get this guy dropping in coverage, so we have this guy dropping here. All of that is to predetermine those things. So what we're going to do then is we're going to fake a run at him, so we get him come down. We're going to have George Kittle come on this, so that this guy has to pick that up. Safety has to pick it up. It threatens both of them. And so you can already see we're opening up this area. And if they choose to take a safety and put him in there, well, then you got Kittle. And if they choose to put this linebacker on that, well, then again, you got Kittle. So all of this ties in for a very specific reason, because here comes the play fake. You see the linebacker, the exact linebacker we want held up. Okay, look at the depth, the difference in depth. Yep. That's the difference between a run fake to your side and a run fake away. It's not just a haphazard run fake for the sake of a run fake. It is a very specific gap that you're giving a run fake to. Because if actually you look at this from the end zone, you would think the movement of the line and the fake of Christian McCaffrey don't make sense. They're faking the opposite direction. But it's because they understand what guys are looking at, not just we just have to do this just to do it. My daughter's trying to get in here on the video. But you can see this guy's got to get depth to account for Kittle. Safeties pulled out to the top. Now you then leak out the tight end early. This guy's got to respect it, and bang, here it is.
And now they're the timing.
Brock, you stay on time. You look this off, and then there it is. Bang.
Oh, and you see the linebacker turn around like, whoops.
Yeah, he's like, oh, that's my zone.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, let's look at it from the end zone. Same thing. Okay,
first shift at one time for a linebacker.
First shift, it changes the strength. You see the defensive line shift. You see the safety shift. That's got a purpose. It's got a why.
So now you Johnny, is it 33?
It's got a why.
Is it 33 that we just saw in the last?
No, 23.
20. Okay, I want to make sure I'm looking at the right one.
Okay, so again, you're pulling this guard and coming this way, and McCaffrey's faking through here. Like that doesn't happen. You see my daughter running around in the back. She just thinks this is hilarious. But all of these things have a reason. Like if this pulls, why do you pull that guy? Okay, well, you pull that guy to sell it to this guy. Right. So the pull is there. So these guys are all confused. And you can see like they're attacking. Please stop. That's what happens when the wifey's at a dentist appointment. They're pulling, and why do they do this? Because you want these guys flowing this way, and you're gonna move the launch point of your quarterback, right? So all of this ties together. See, Brock's gonna move this way and set it up so he can throw back through here. So this is about giving your offensive line, making it easier for them. Look at these guys. These guys were not ready to rush the passer. Okay, and their best pass rusher had to drop into coverage. So all of it is set up for a reason. Like everything has a reason, and it all ties together, and it all like makes things hard. So when you talk about why has Kyle Shanahan in 6 of the last 7 years had a top 10 defense, this is why. Because nobody does the why like they do. And I'm going to do a full polished video on this, but there's a primer in it so we can see like this goes 18 layers deep of everything they do.
So a couple things here. Cayman's Island, I'm never mad for derailing the show. We derail the show 3 times a day, always. So no, keep it coming. Also, we have a request that I actually will second, and I will request as well. In the comments, Notorious GAV, can you break down last year's run game and why it wasn't as successful as past years, please? And he puts 2 question marks, which means he really, really, really wants it. So that's something to take a look at. We've talked about that, of just how much Christian McCaffrey has had to fight for his yards last year. And you did break down in season a lot of that, but for the channel, for the website, I mean, for
the supporters. I will say, let me get through the Kyle Shanahan stuff that I'm working on right now in the Shanahan offense. I'm almost done. I should be done. Hopefully I'm almost done pulling clips, and then I got to do a lot of editing. I pulled again. I went back to 2022, 23, 24, 25. I've gone over almost probably 70% of our games, 60% of our games. And because I try and look through a game and find sequencing of this stuff, but also plays that really worked and kind of show this. That could definitely be something because I've done pieces of that with some of the stuff in the season, with some of the stuff on the Carver Willis video. A lot of it really came down to this last season with Dominic Puni was clearly hampered. You have to remember we were we were rotating left guard through like crazy last year. Remember, Ben Barch started the year. He was supposed to be the starter. And Ben Barch, as far as his abilities, really good. Couldn't stay on the field. And we saw that. Then you get Connor Colby in there. Connor Colby, he struggled. I mean, he just really struggled. And then you put Spencer Burford in there, who was really supposed to be your swing tackle, and it played right guard, and now he's got to play left guard. And then you end up, but Barch comes back for a little bit and he goes back in there. And then he gets hurt again. And then you put Burford in there. And then you got Austin Pleasance in there. So you had a ton of change on that offensive line, different, things moving through that offensive line. You had receivers who did not know their blocking assignments. I mean, remember the week 1 against Seattle, Marquez Valdez-Scantling was playing, who was not on the team in November. Like he ended up going and signing with Pittsburgh after we finally got somewhat healthy enough to where we didn't need him. And he was somebody who was picked up at the end of training camp. After week 1, when Juwan Jennings gets hurt, you end up signing Kendrick Bourne, who, and with all this stuff, our receivers have got to block. Like, just like I was talking about with the one play, Ayuk has to fake a crack and then go get the corner. Like, that sounds simple, but remember, these guys have got to remember 80, 90 plays. So they may be missing these details on these plays. That's a lot to digest through the season, in the season, with no training camp, no OTAs. Ricky Pearsall, who had that stuff, he's in and out of the lineup the entire year. You had Jacob Cowing, who knew all this stuff. He misses the entire year. Brandon Ayuk was supposed to come back. There's that drama. He doesn't come back. So, like, I look at all of it and I go, Luke Farrell was supposed to be a better blocking tight end, and he was not good this year. George Kittle's out for a lot of the year. Like, there is, when I talk about this, that there's so much detail, and that's why when it works, it looks really, really good. When you have a cavalcade of injuries that hit you in certain positions, like receiver, and you have tight ends that it's being a struggle, and your offensive line is moving through in and out. Well, now this does become a much bigger challenge.
Yeah.
And that's why the run game looks like it struggles really bad. And your quarterback's not in there for a long time. And you have Mac Jones, who maybe he doesn't handle every single check that Brock Purdy would normally check. And your passing game's a little bit more limited because, he can't do some of the things that Brock does pre-snap, post-snap. And so it reduces everything. The fact they still had a top 10 offense is very admirable. But when I think we look at all of those elements together and you say, okay, I understand why there would be a downtick on all that, and why that it was by the end of the year that the running game started to get going a lot better. If you look at Christian McCaffrey's rushing average over the last, I think, 6 weeks, it ended up being closer to 4.3 per carry instead of 3.7. So there was it was swinging upwards near the end of the year as the team was getting a little bit healthier, as they were getting a little more cohesion, as guys had more time. So you did start to see it get better. I expect them this year, if they have to stay healthy, we've said that a lot of times, for it to be a big uptick as it goes.
Yeah. Consistency, as Notorious says, for sure. So, but that's why overall, I think we would both say, and everyone in here would say, why we're so excited. I mentioned with Truman, I think Kittle will be good to go. Maybe not to Australia, which we don't want him there, to make that flight and all that. Honestly, I don't want to see George Kittle in Australia because that's too much for his leg. I just don't,
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think is if they've come up with some sort of technology to reduce the, keep pressure, like air pressure, atmospheric pressure on that
is
leg.
Probably possible. Actually, there's something that you can like maybe put on your leg that, does something. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not fully versed in all of that and what they could do. That sounds like a question for AI to do the research on. But as far as how our offense managed without Kittle, I think they're planning for that, right? They've been planning for that. And maybe some of that, we have to remember that through all of this time, the 49ers have also gotten a look at what Luke Farrell and Jake Ton just look like through this year's offseason program. I remember Aaron Banks, Chris Forrester talked about in a coaching clinic, how Aaron Banks' footwork improved from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 in the system. And it did. Now, his last year, he was hurt a lot. His weight had gotten higher, and he was just slow. He was slow. It was really bad. it like he was borderline. I thought he should have been benched. I think they were trying to get him into game shape, sort of thing, but it was just so bad that last year. But I think they look at that sort of progression, and I think they're looking with Luke Farrell and saying, okay, now we've really gotten 2 years. You've got a year in our system to see where it was bad and what you need to correct. And so I think they're looking for a step up from Farrell. I think they're looking for a step up from Jake Tonjes to really improve that. And so I think, I mean, I'm not 100% confident that nobody's going to be able to replace George Kittle, but I would expect it to be better than it was last year.
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing that you're going to see that would help is the receivers being better than they were last year as far as their blocking, and that's going to come down. I mean, Dejon Stribling, we went over his tape. You can go back if you haven't seen it and watch my film breakdown of Dejon Stribling from college. I had 2 minutes on his block, like just a straight 2-minute reel. Not we spent 2 minutes. I played nonstop a 2-minute long reel. And bear in mind, these 3 plays was about 35 seconds, 30 seconds of him just dominant in the run game, blocking, like best blocking receiver in the draft. So like that sort of thing, I go, from what I saw as our issues last year, Dejon Stribling should really have a role in correcting that. Mike Evans is a really good blocking receiver because he's massive. He's got a huge frame. Like he's going to really help you out. These other young guys, receivers, like they should be better in these things as they go. So all of that looking in, I think Carver Willis will be an upgrade at left guard over what we have with Spencer Burford and Ben Barch, and because mainly he could be on the field, whereas Ben Barch wasn't, or Connor Colby. Connor Colby should be a big jump if he's able to get in there and make it as a starter there. I have a lot of reasons for optimism as far as like, yes, it'll be harder without Kittle, but you should have enough pieces. Again, it's going to come down to what happens here over the next month of guys being healthy or not.
Let's get you out of here, Johnny, on this. We talked about earlier on one of the super chats. Just real quick, doesn't have to be long. Give your overall grade of first down play calling, second down, third down, and fourth down. So let's start with first down. What grade do you give Kyle Shanahan on calling plays, and maybe just a couple sentences on why?
So first down, I think because of how committed they are to the process, that I would give him an A. It's not always A production, but because it has so much to do with the process, and it's a part of their entire philosophical approach, and they're so committed to it, and they're okay with sometimes being behind. Yeah. And those 1 yard gains because of the payoff. Like they're willing to do the hard things on first down, the things that are going to get criticized, the things that are going to make life difficult for you in the short term, because in the long term, it really pays off. And I respect that a ton. So many different guys will look at it as a drive at a time, that every drive I've got to maximize every single play within that play only, where Kyle Shanahan has a very holistic view, root cause view. And I respect that because it's more complex and it adds more layers, but it makes it so much more consistent in the long run. It may not look as good in the short term or in certain individual games, but over the long term. And that's why, again, 6 out of 7 seasons, he has had a top 10 offense. Nobody else has done that over the last 7 years.
Let us know in the comments what grade you give. First down, Kyle Shanahan. Go ahead, Johnny, and then go into second down.
So second down, I think I would give him a B- to a B, just because I think that's the thing they spend the least amount of time on. And it becomes clear. I think what they spend the most amount of their time on is first down, is third down, third and short, third and medium, third and long. They see those as the 2 most important downs. One establishes what you're going to do. The other one allows you to continue establishing what you're going to do on first down. Second downs are where they tend to look less polished, and it looks a little bit less exact.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Like what down would you say besides first down? Obviously, every drive starts with a first down, and you assume that you're going to get some first down. So I'm almost not counting that. But the down that you would assume that you would get a lot of in a football game is second down, because on first down you are not assuming you're going to get 10 yards. You're just not. So to hear you say that a little bit surprises me, because if you do things well on first and second, it is assumed that you won't see a third down. So let's get better at second down would kind of be my philosophy a little bit on that.
Well,
No?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. They're also going to look at it and say, really, your money downs are third down, because that's what makes or breaks
Right. Either
the
you
drive.
punt or you right. But second down, we've talked about this.
Right, a really
good
good second down never gets to third down.
or sets up 3rd and 1, where it's like an automatic, almost kind of not literally automatic, but really close. I'd rather have 3rd and 1 because your attention to detail on second down.
Right, but second down is also going to be the one that the defense has most options, because they can come with anything.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking at where do I get maximal impact?
Football's tough, man.
and for the fewest amount of work, third down's going to have, like, 3rd and 1. I'm going to have less looks than 2nd and 8. Second and 8, the defense is going to come with anything.
Yeah.
Anything and everything. You got to look at blitz packages. You got to look at every coverage that's available. You got to look at every person. Like, the defense has a Rolodex of everything they can throw at you on second down.
Yeah.
Third and 1, they can't be coming with this exotic blitz, because they got to stop you from getting 1 yard. 3rd and 10, now they're going to be running coverage. They don't have to protect against the run. So you understand like what they're going to do. Like, they're going to be coming with their blitzes. So, like, 2nd and 8, they could be protecting against the run. They could be going cover 3. They could be going cover 4. They could be fire zone off this side. There is everything available to them on second down. So it comes down to, where do I have maximal impact, and what are the crucial points? It's going to be first down, establishing what we're doing, and third down. So third down, second down, I give him a B minus, because I think that's just clearly their production on second down. Now, they get some explosives on those, but I think overall the approach, it's just, you can tell it's the least amount of time on task. Third down, I would say I would give him an A, because if you look at third down conversion rate over the last 10,
we're number
years,
1.
It's number 1. Clearly they spend a lot of time on third down. Fourth down, I'm gonna give him a B minus. Maybe even C plus.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's your lowest score out of all the.
Just because I don't love a lot of the things they go at with it. So, like, first and third down, I think they're the best in the league of those. Second and fourth down, I think they're probably below league average.
So let's stay on the odd numbers, boys.
So, but I understand the approach.
Yeah.
They zig when other people zag, and that does put you behind in certain situations. If you look at the bulk of their plays that they run between the 20s, it's going to be base personnel. It's going to be 12 or 21. Like, they love to have Juszczyk on there between the 20s. Once they get inside the 20s, it's actually the rate at which Juszczyk is out there drops, because they love to have 11 personnel in the red zone, because they want a smaller body having to be out, another smaller body having to be out there.
Yeah.
And so they're going to tell the defense, either you have to, where in the short area where we're going to be running the ball, and we're going to want to run the ball, passing game becomes more congested. Are you going to put a linebacker out there against that wide receiver? Because if you do, in the red zone, we're going to throw it. If you don't, we're going to run it. And we're going to make that nickel guy come up and tackle in space with authority, where he can't let a guy fall forward, because it's near the goal line. It's when it really matters. So, yeah, I hope this was digestible for everybody. It actually was a longer video than I thought. I was like, this should be like a 25-minute video. But I guess not.
An hour and 25 minutes
add an
later.
hour. Do it. But hope it helped. Hope it helped elucidate some things.
Yeah, this is definitely a video you can go back to and watch. Just skip to, the first 15 minutes or whatever and get to the video stuff. It's definitely good. Reminder, make sure to take your phone and show people the channel. This is definitely one of those episodes, 1,000,000,000% that you want to do that to. Make sure you hit the notification bell. If all things go well, we can get together Friday. Johnny, what is on the docket?
Most likely getting into more of this, because this is just the intro of the
Shanahan
offense.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're getting into more of this.
More
and if that's what you want to see, let me know.
Yeah.
If you say, bro, like, nah, we're not really. But I think that's what most people are at this channel for, is this kind of stuff. So
1,000,000,000%. So in the meantime, in between time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, go Niners.